Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for the presentations. I really enjoyed them. I guess, first of all, I just want to direct the first question to Dr. Porter. My understanding is that the U.S. leads in chip design and in these specialty manufacturing tools. I assume the Chinese government has invested a lot in trying to gain superiority in those particular areas. Why is it that the U.S. currently maintains leadership still?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And I would say that we just had quite a head start in this industry. My concern is more how we look at things going forward in the future, and I highlighted this in my opening remarks. We really have to play a long game here and ensure that they don't catch up at some point, right? And so how you...
Are they catching up?
There's a lot of smart people in China who are working really hard on this problem. So I don't have insights into exactly where they are. David may be able to comment more about their current status. But I would say that I would bet on them trying really hard to catch up. And I bet on us because, as David was mentioning earlier, we can outrun, and we need to focus on being able to still outrun. I think that's what he and I were both saying in different ways. Don't change how we are as a country in order to try to maintain that leadership position. We run fast because we have all of these capabilities in our country that they don't have.
Got it. I just want to draw your attention to a bipartisan piece of legislation that Congressman Stewart and I authored that became law last year. It's called the H.R. 8763 Semi-Act, SEMI Semi-Act. It basically authorizes IARPA to create a competition to award grants to advance microelectronics research. And IARPA just put out the request for proposals and accepted the submissions as of June 30th. And we're really excited to see what the proposals end up generating in terms of cutting edge research. I saw, Dr. Porter, that you headed IARPA, if I'm not mistaken. You were the first director.
I was.
Can you talk about the importance of this type of a research program and also point us to successes in the past that have advanced our leadership in microelectronics through IARPA?
Sure. Actually, when in IARPA, thank you so much for your support of IARPA. You can imagine I'm a little biased there. It has the same spirit as a DARPA in terms of really trying to push the state of the art and understand where we can get high risk, high payoff reward research. In the case of microelectronics, ironically, we started a program back then called Circuit Analysis Tools. And believe it or not, that was when 65 nanometers was pretty exciting, okay? And 22 was kind of seen as the gold standard, believe it or not. So things have really evolved quite a bit. But that technology found its way into a lot of our national labs and is used today for very important uses, both unclassified and classified.
When was IARPA created? By the way?
It was created 2008. January was actually the end of 2007, and then I stepped in early 2008. And this committee and the CISI both, I would just give a nod to all of you and your predecessors, just fantastic support. It wouldn't exist, frankly, without the support of Congress.
Great, thank you. Next question is TSMC and Taiwan. I'm very concerned about Taiwan and obviously its ongoing tensions with China. What I'm trying to understand is this: how much does the Chinese government and how much does Chinese industry rely on the success of TSMC? In other words, how much do they source from TSMC in terms of their own chips that they use for whatever industrial, commercial, or military purposes that they have?
Right, and David, I'm going to turn to you also to amplify this, but as you know, there was some recent legislation that prevented TSMC from essentially selling to, I think it was SMIC at least, David, correct me if I'm wrong, and High Silicon, the design shop for Huawei, because the tools, we put some controls on the tools and the use of American and ASML tools. Not to get in the weeds. The point is, I think at the moment, they're being forced to develop more capability indigenously because certain controls have been put into place. But I would actually defer to David on this because I think you're more current, David, on the latest in that regard. But your macro question is the right question, right? We need to ask ourselves, do we want to influence globally what happens, or do we want to retreat? And by retreating, what risk do we take? And what I'm advocating for is to make sure that we're not relying on one particular area because of resilience, Taiwan is not just an issue because of geopolitics, right? What if a tsunami came or other natural disaster? It's just as troubling a situation.
I guess what I'm trying to get at, and maybe David, you can kind of address this, is, obviously, if they went to war, TSMC would be affected. And I just want to understand how much they would be willing to, hurt themselves in the process by initiating hostilities with Taiwan.
I'm not able to quantify the level of dependence or reliance, but I guess the short answer is yes. I think the Chinese design companies and others do rely on TSMC. They are, the term foundry means a contract manufacturer that fabricates chips for other companies. And some people have referred to TSMC as the Switzerland of the chip industry. They work for all comers. And the U.S. and U.S. companies are very reliant on them. They're good at what they do. And I'm pleased to say they've announced a new fab in Arizona, and partly spurred on by the prospect of CHIPS funding. And I think that would be an important step forward for our country. Other companies have announced projects as well. But, they are a leading company for our industry, and the world is dependent on them in many respects. And as Dr. Porter just mentioned, there's the concentration in a single geography of that capability is troubling from a geopolitical perspective, natural disaster, power outage, you name it.
Got it. Thank you.